Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Debt Collection 101 here on R About You. We're joined once again by some very special guests here. I love the guest episodes, it means we don't have to do so much work.
Exactly.
It's awesome. But we have Brandon Medlin and Brandon Huisman from LocateSmarter. Thanks guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. So, obviously, we know you guys. We see you guys at all the events, see you guys at all the shows. But for anybody that's watching that might not know about LocateSmarter or know about you two individually, can you give us a little bit of a history and tell us about yourself?
Absolutely. I'll give just a quick overview and then turn it over to Brandon. LocateSmarter is, our core focus in the industry is providing quality skip tracing solutions. We really identify with being a data and analytics company. I would say 90% of our footprint is in the collection space today, but as our company is starting to scale and grow, we are looking at other verticals and really excited about 2020 there. So that's a broad subject. We talk about data and analytics, so the easiest way I think for the viewers is to understand what we do is we provide solutions that are going to really help move the needle for what we would consider collection agencies. Whether that's less wrong numbers, more right party contacts, overall dealing with less data. That's where we really specialized. Brandon Medlin here, in charge of sales and business development for LocateSmarter, and I'll turn it over to Brandon to introduce himself.
Another Brandon Huisman, run product development and analytics for LocateSmarter.
All right.
Hey, Brandon.
Easy enough. Thanks so much.
So if we get this ball rolling, in general, how do you guys think machine learning is beginning to affect the debt collection industry?
Well, I think it's getting people to start thinking more about machine learning. I don't know if we've seen a full effect just yet. There's a lot of great, I would say, solution providers coming to market that have great solutions, high potential. I think what companies are beginning to do now is beginning to think about what they're sitting on in terms of data and how can they, leverage this technology to drive better decisions each day. So I think we are yet to see the full effect and what's going to happen here. We're just in the beginning stages as the, machine learning AI, is starting to move into our space. Would you add anything else?
Oh, great.
Well, what do you get? So, what are the best things that collection agencies have right now, data-wise, that they can use with machine learning? That they maybe didn't have access to in the past. I guess what's kind of changed now that's made it such a big thing?
I think probably the biggest benefit is they'll make more value out of their own data. I think this technology helps them leverage the data they already have and are generating through their work efforts. A secondary component would be kind of enriching their data, companies like ourselves, where we're providing, better contact information, maybe some other variables that they can use to help feed those models and help keep that data cleaner. Us ourselves, we use machine learning as part of our product development. We like to partner with our clients so that we can kind of close the loop on the data that we feed them, and they kind of report back to us how that data performs throughout their business. So we kind of capture and harvest that information to, enhance our models, our algorithms on our side to, help push a better product to them going forward.
Cool. I guess, do you have any examples of data that people are using now? Do you have customers that that are doing this, or a lot of our agencies are smaller and a lot of them they haven't started using this type of stuff yet. So I'm curious to know if you guys have any experience with it.
Mm-hmm. I would say we definitely have a couple that are at least putting their toes in the water. As Brandon mentioned, there's several providers out there that kind of have some scoring solutions out there available. I know a couple of our clients have been testing with some of that. Kind of still, I think, piecing through, what the returns on that technology is going to be, what does implementation look like, and how do they really put that to work in their business.
And do you feel like it's going to make their jobs easier, or do you think it's going to make it more complicated in an already highly regulated industry?
I certainly think, the regulation side of it is there's challenges around that in a lot of ways. I think this whole evolution of the machine learning and, driving better models with the data that these companies are sitting on is ultimately going to make them more efficient. The opportunities that are out there today is really about driving your costs down and, making better decisions. And so I think the change is certainly going to play more into the cost structure agency space, looking at growing their margins, taking advantage of, the data that's available to them today. And then, I know today is more about machine learning, but the broader concept of AI with the chat bots and voice bots and things of that nature, this subject could go on and on and on, but I think we're seeing all of that come into play here. For companies to adapt this technology, I think the key is how to keep it simple and take it in steps. There's endless opportunities, and I think everybody, what I would encourage them to think about is what problem are you trying to solve for first? Because you can really get carried away, I think, with all of the solutions out there and solving a lot of problems at once if you choose to. It's really hard for companies. And we've seen that for years, migrating off systems they're using today or integrating these new systems into their existing platforms. So there's a lot of challenges around it. I think keeping things simple to start is key.
Yeah, completely agree.
So do you think there's going to be any pushback from the industry on this? Or do you think they were going to openly accept it and they're looking for it?
I think everyone in the industry loves the thought of it. I think the biggest pushback is going to be when it comes to implementation and just making that step from where people are today to using this new technology. I think it's fairly commonplace with at least some of our clients where they've got legacy systems, potentially multiple of them, where their data is kind of scattered and maybe a little bit messy. So I think there's kind of an investment that's needed to kind of clean that stuff up and really put this technology to work. But I think the end goal is pretty clear to everyone, and I think everyone's really excited about it.
Yeah.
So in terms of machine learning, do you think there's something to say in terms of the human element that is in collections? Do you think consumers prefer the human element, or do you think they'll be more open to just paying through a portal or an automated system?
I think we've got to be open-minded to all of those things. You're dealing with different types of demographics in collections. I think what we have to do is start thinking outside the box and how we grow the platforms for communication to consumers. Digital communication is the best way to describe it. I know it kind of gets categorized around email, but as fast as things are changing, as with the new apps that are becoming available for communication, I think the best way to describe it is how do we remain open-minded and how do we stay compliant with the new digital communication era that's coming upon us. And so it's, Facebook Messenger, for instance, I think a lot about that, in terms of the amount of usage and how are we going to use that tool. So it's all about what the consumer is going to prefer. I think the models are going to help drive where you need to distribute that communication through in terms of channels. But I think it's not about transitioning away from phone calls. It's not about transitioning away from emails, but rather expanding that scope to include more platforms for communication.
Yeah, I think the key to this technology is it helps identify who wants to be communicated in what manner, which allows you to be to know that, I guess, before you waste any efforts or do something that might not be the best way. Knowing that day one is, I think, really one benefit this technology can help you know.
Yeah, that would be huge. I mean, being able to just obviously communicate on the platform that the consumer wants to, knowing that beforehand, being able to text somebody if they only want to deal with texting, and that would obviously, that would be awesome. Would I guess talking about saying would people like to be we're all consumers too, so what do you two prefer? If a business is reaching out to you, do you hate dealing with chatbots and AI and all that stuff? Do you want just a letter? I mean, what do you guys like?
I'll let you start, Brandon.
I would say it depends, but I would definitely say digital. Depending on your age demographic, I think we've all been conditioned to interact with computers, and that's only growing. But I would say for me, I don't necessarily need that personal interaction. I can usually kind of self-service myself, and I prefer to just go that route. But there still might be a time where I might want that human interaction. So I think knowing when those times are and when they're not is what's valuable. Yeah,
and I think this whole the AI voice chat and voice bots and things of that nature, they're getting better. I'm old school, so my I guess my short answer is I prefer to speak to somebody. It's just the way I like to, deal with my communications. But I think what I have noticed is recently I've been tricked a couple times, where I answer the phone and it's an AI voice bot. And, I actually thought I was speaking to somebody, whereas, 5 years ago when that happened, you knew immediately, okay, I'm dealing with a computer. So as those things continue to grow, I can totally see where, the human element becomes less, needed. Just because you feel like you have that human element on the other side with the way these voice bots are trending.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If they can trick you and you don't know the difference, then that's the best, I guess. That would be so. If it's a good enough system, whatever, it's always better, I think, than to have the AI or whatever you want to call it. They have the Google one where it books. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, where the Google called restaurants and made reservations and everything. It was like a big thing, like 6 months to a year ago. They had it. It was pretty cool. But what about you, Nick? What do you like?
See, that's the thing. I think it's important to have both aspects of it because, again, sometimes I just want to deal with it on my own, be able to just, go online, deal with the situation. But at the same time, I like to be able to have the option of being able to talk to an individual, answer any questions and just having that personal touch because it just feels better for me when I'm talking to an individual rather than a computer.
Yeah, I guess that's where the analytics and machine learning comes in. You can know that beforehand, right?
Exactly.
Based on all their data, you can kind of figure out what they want, when they want it. I'm sure it depends on the conversation that's being had, whether you want to talk to, if you're paying off like your mortgage, you might not want to talk to a bot, but if you're paying like a small credit card bill, it's fine, it's $30.
Yeah.
So I guess it all depends.
I think you're right. I think it's all about emotional intelligence, and if it's a straightforward thing you're trying to achieve, it's obviously can be much easier using, whether it be through the web or through, some other means of AI. But I think emotional intelligence is still important to us as humans, where you got to be able to have somebody on the other end relate to what's happening and what's going on, and not just reactive to what it's been trained on, to carry out a conversation. So I think that's a variable question with some dependencies.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so. I think it's an interesting topic, and it's not new. This topic's been around for some time, and we are really enjoying watching where things are trending. We've been talking about doing some things internally. We've been doing things internally to better our products. I think the key is for this industry, less is more. And, I think the biggest concern for people has been transparency. It's the black box, not sure how this thing's going to work, and it's a shiny object, so it's getting a lot of traction. So the more we can get into transparency type conversations and how these models are being built, I think you'll see a better adoption rate once people understand what we're dealing with here. But it has to come in small pieces. I don't think we can just make a huge leap overnight. But we're excited about it. Being a data company, to Brandon's point, data is at the base of all of these models. And for us, we're in a good position with the options of enriching the data that these companies are sitting on. So we really look forward to see where this goes over the next 12, 24 months. And we certainly plan to be a player with the technology. We're just trying to figure out our strategy and where we want to kind of fit in and kind of help support where some of these things are going.
Yeah, I agree. Any industry that, like you said, this isn't something that just came out yesterday. It's been, other industries have been using this, I think, for a while. And any industry like collections that's so regulated by the government, they're always slow to adapt to new technologies. They have to be, because they don't know how the, laws are going to react to it and everything. But yeah, so I appreciate you guys coming on, Brandon and Brandon. Thanks so much. If anyone that's watching is going to use machine learning, LocateSmarter can help you provide the data with it to get started. So yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.